Alright, so it's time for video. It's been ages since I've done one of these, for good reason, you know, because I don't talk about the endless psychological operations that are the 90% of the entire global social engineering experiment. It's fictitious spin or propaganda that are just being endlessly regurgitated and broadcasted. There is so little actual reality going on in this regard that is quite incredible. But today, for a change, there's actually something to talk about. You know that I have been under severe economic sanctions for 2.5 years or so, and the last 6 months have been extraordinarily stringent. Basically a complete ban on all sales or for me from earning any money whatsoever. As an example of this, I can tell you throughout the month of February, they only allow me to have one token sale. The item was worth $85 or 550 Danish kroner. That is the entire extent of a month's worth of sales. Just to give you an idea of how economically sanctioned I am. They are basically prohibiting anybody from doing any business with me whatsoever, and this has been going on for 2.5 years, as I say, and increasingly so, as I have documented many times in my previous videos, which I will link to in the description. But needless to say, I had to do something. So I wanted to get a forklift certificate so I can drive forklifts on job sites or production or whatever, so that I have some kind of qualification, because obviously most of my adult life has been consumed by this global social engineering experiment run by foreign agencies and public-private partnerships like the likes of Palantir. So obviously I should have done this about a year ago, but I know it's easy to have hindsight, so I suppose better late than never. So in connection with me getting this license, I obviously have to go to school in Aalborg or Sundby here, where I'm going to now. And as soon as I started, it became evidently clear that the state arbiters of this social engineering experiment were using the synthetic telepathy communication system, communicating to everybody in my vicinity, and of course getting everybody to hate and despise me on the basis of what they are communicating, and as well as trying to get me kicked out before I have even started. The first day I was obviously not very good at driving a forklift because I had never done it before, and they literally wanted to use that as a pretext for sending me home. And they also wanted to say that I didn't have the mental capacity to drive a forklift. But since all the tests and whatnot that I'm doing considerably well at, and since they're electronic, they can't really manipulate them. So that pretext didn't work, and after a day of driving this forklift, I kind of mastered it fairly reasonably well, and so they couldn't easily use that pretext either. So now they're obviously reverting back to running psychological operations and trying to start conflicts and getting the teachers, trying to convince them for me not to be there. So we got this whole technocratic apartheid going on, you know, the mirroring of what they're doing to the Palestinian people in the West Bank and whatnot, but in a more civilized form, using technology and that I'm not aware of, or they can communicate about me to other people without me being aware of it. And every time if I say something regarding these things, everybody denies it, despite everybody being enticed to plot against me. So this is literally what is going on here in Denmark, and I wanted to kind of tie it together to something extraordinarily ridiculous as well. Leading up to this regime change war that the US hegemon was going to conduct against Iran, decapitating the leadership and whatnot, they literally tied their regime change, the war of choice, together with the illegal public persecution of me, Stephen Bell. I don't know exactly in what capacity, but the information sphere in the United States was on some platforms was quite telling, and it was quite obvious that the Orange Man were conflating the two. And to kind of prove this claim, spectacular claim, need evidence, don't they? So normally when I tweet, for example, I get around between between 10 or a few thousand impressions on Twitter if I'm lucky. Well, my first tweet regarding their war of choice against Iran, it got magnificently boosted. So I got 200,000 impressions, which is extraordinary. Something that never happens, and people literally commenting all sorts of things to me, which is also something out of the norm, because I'm avoided like the plague, aren't I, and everything. Nobody's allowed to talk to me the same way. Nobody's allowed to do any business with me. And suddenly this all changed because they were tying this together and amplifying my tweet. I think they might have regretted based on what on the basis of what was said by me, because it didn't really tie me down as some kind of mullah fanatic, but more like an objective observer of things, which is exactly what I try to be in life, objective and factual. So nevertheless, though, the amplification of my tweets stopped immediately thereafter. But it just goes to show, doesn't it, that it is the United States who are running this program. It is quite obviously that in Israeli intelligence and their whole idea of how they treat people that they don't like is a major influence on the way that I'm treated and how things are run in relation to the global social engineering experiment taking place in Denmark. So there is really no telling what they will do, and I will obviously do everything that I can to achieve my forklift license and get some kind of a job for a few hours a week, so that I can at least have a bit of money, which is something that they obviously don't want me to have, because otherwise I wouldn't be so economically sanctioned for the last 2.5 years. So you can see that I'm being sanctioned as if I was a foreign country that the US hegemony is at war with, just on a personal level, and they're not out as of yet trying to kill me, but they're doing everything through soft power and ostracizing me completely and utterly from Danish society, so that I'm literally like some kind of enemy behind enemy lines in my own home country, because Palantir or the CIA are communicating in Danish to people, and the Danish people think it is in the interest of the Danish government or the Danish people that they are persecuting me. It is quite remarkable, but nevertheless, this is what is going on.